All right, thank you guys. I'm following Friday's sports wagering action. We're now 4-0 in our last 4 college basketball tier package picks on BrockPage.com. And if you want to see which one of these free YouTube picks on this video that's being featured as today's college basketball tier package pick, the link for that play is in the description section below. $1,000 bettors are now up over $3,600 during that span. I'm also 3-0 in my last 3 board member tier package picks on that very same webpage as well. $1,000 bettors are now up over $2,700 during that stretch as well. And as always, guys, all the picks that I give out on my website, they're my personal bets, games that I personally have action on. And with that, guys, let's go ahead and dive into it. This is part 2, by the way. If you want to check out the part 1 video, I'll put a link somewhere in the video or in the comments section. Welcome to part 2. All right, we're going to start with Notre Dame taking on NC State. That's going to be a 3 o'clock Eastern tip-off on Saturday, February 5th, 2022. NC State's -1 with a total at 143.5. But despite being favored in this one, the Wolfpack's on a 3-game losing streak, and they also lost 5 out of their last 6. Now, the Wolfpacks had some problems defensively this season. They're allowing 75 points a game on their home court, and they're amongst the worst in the country in home defensive boards. Now, they're taking on a Notre Dame team who won 8 out of their last 10 themselves, and they also have a winning record on the road. Dane Goodwin, he's drilling 49% of his three-pointers this year. He's also averaging 14 points a game. Meanwhile, Nate Laszewski, he's making 44% of his three-pointers. He's also grabbing 7 rebounds a game as well. Now, defensively, the Irish allow only 65 points a game. When it comes to the total in this one, Notre Dame saw overs recently with Virginia, Louisville, and Virginia Tech. Meanwhile, NC State went 4-2 to the over in their last 6 themselves. I'm going to lean toward Notre Dame +1 in the over 143.5. Next matchup, it is going to be Ole Miss versus Florida, 3:30 p.m. Eastern start time. The Florida Gators are -8.5, totals 131. And even despite the sustained absence of Colin Castleton, the Gators still got the W in 5 out of their last 7. They covered the number 5 times during that span. Ty Appleby's picking up the slack in the scoring department here. He's averaging nearly 11 points a game along with 2 boards and 3 assists. Meanwhile, Flanders Fleming, he's scoring 10.5 points a game himself along with 3 rebounds. Now, the Gators are one of the better defensive teams at home in the SEC. They're allowing only 61 points a game in Gainesville, and they're limiting their competition to just 28% shooting from 3 land in that same category. Now, they're taking on an Ole Miss club who lost 3 out of their last 4 themselves on the road. And they're also scoring only 64 points a game when they travel. Now, the Rebels have recently lost to the likes of Arkansas, Mississippi State, and Missouri. And when it comes to the total in this one, Ole Miss went 60% to the under in their last 10 outings. They're also 7-3 to the under in their last 10 meetings with the Gators. So if you're into historical trends, you certainly want to think about that one there. Meanwhile, Florida on the other side, they've gone 8-4 to the under in their last dozen at home. I'm going to lean toward Florida -8.5 in the under 131. Next ball game should be a good one. I'm talking about Baylor versus Kansas, 4 p.m. Eastern tip-off. Kansas is -2.5 at home with the total at 144. Now, the Kansas Jayhawks, they won 6 out of their last 7 ball games, and they're amongst the best scoring teams in the country. Kansas is in the top 20 in the nation in scoring on average per contest, and they're making nearly 50% of their field goals for the year. Ochai Agbaji is averaging just about 21 points a game, along with 4 rebounds and 46% shooting from 3 land. Meanwhile, Christian Braun is averaging over 15 points a game himself, along with 5 boards and 3 assists. Now, when it comes to defensive play in this one, the Jayhawks are limiting their competition to just 29% shooting from 3 land at home. They're also in the top 20 in defensive boards. They're taking on a Baylor team who failed to cover in 6 out of their last 10 themselves. And they may have to go to work here today without the efforts of L.J. Cryer, who's battling a foot injury. He's one of the top scorers on this Baylor roster. And I'll tell you this much, although Baylor has been mostly outstanding this year, there are a few problem areas, in my opinion, that could potentially hurt them here today. The Bears are actually having a tough time guarding the field goal on the road. For some reason, they're letting guys get to the basket when they travel. And when it comes to rebounding, well, the Bears are actually amongst the worst in the Big 12 in road offensive boards. So keep that in mind as well. Now, injury-wise, once again, Cryer and Flagler, they're both listed as questionable for the Bears. Meanwhile, for Kansas, Martin and Cuff, they are out for them. Of course, Remy Martin really not doing, he's doing okay, but you figure transfers in from Arizona State, he'd tear it up, and he's been all right, nothing crazy. But anyway, total-wise, Kansas is 70% to the over in their last 10 at home. They're also 14-7 to the under. 14-7. Don't listen to what I just said. Baylor, they're 60% to the over in their last 10 themselves. I'm going to lean toward Kansas minus 2.5 over 144. Next game, Washington State versus Cal, 4 p.m. East. WAZZU's minus 8, totals 126. And although the Cougs are laying a big number here on the road, I do actually think they're in a pretty good spot to get the job done. They won their last 4 straight, and they actually played some really good basketball on the road this year. As a matter of fact, the Cougs lead the entire country in road defensive field goal percentage. They're limiting their competition to just 58 points a game when they travel. And they're also holding them to just 35% shooting from the field in that very same category. Now, scoring-wise, Michael Flowers, he's averaging over 13 points a game, along with 3 boards and 3 assists. Meanwhile, Noah Williams, he's scoring 11 points a game himself, along with 3 rebounds and 2.5 assists as well. And in addition to playing some stifling defense away from home, the Cougs are also in the top 25 in the nation in road scoring per contest. They're taking on a Cal team who's on a 9-game losing streak, and they covered the number just 3 times during that span. Now, the Golden Bears have had some significant problems offensively this season. They're averaging only 64 points a game, and they've been held to just 62 points per contest in their last 10 meetings with Washington State. Now, total-wise, Cal went 4-1 to the over in their last 5 ball games. They're also 9-5 to the over in their last 14 at home. I'm going to lean toward WAZZU minus 8 and the over 126. Next ball game, little ACC action. I'm talking about Miami versus Virginia. 5 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Virginia's minus 4 with the total at 126.5. And despite their incredible defensive play, well, Cavaliers have a losing record against the spread at home this year. They're actually scoring only 63 points a game in front of their home fans. They're taking on a Miami team who averages nearly 76 points per contest themselves. And they're led by Cameron McGusty, who's scoring 17.5 points a game, along with 5 boards and a couple assists. Meanwhile, Isaiah Wong is scoring over 16 points a game himself, along with 3 boards and a couple assists. Now, Miami is one of the better road shooting teams from the field in the ACC. When it comes to the total on this one, the Canes went 6-1 to the under in their last 7 outings. They also went 80% to the under in their last 10 games against Virginia. So if you're into historical trends, plenty of unders to go around between these two teams. Now, the Cavaliers, on the other side of things, they saw unders recently with Louisville, Wake Forest, and North Carolina. I'm going to lean toward Miami plus 4 and the under 126.5. Next ball game, it is going to be USC versus Arizona, 5 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Arizona's minus 11, totals 150. And as good as USC's been this year, well, Arizona's been dominant at home. They're 12-0 straight up at the McHale Center, top 3 in the country in scoring. Benny Mathurin, he's scoring 16 points a game along with 6 boards and a couple assists. Meanwhile, Tubelis, excuse me, Azzy, we'll just call him Ass Man, like in Seinfeld. No, Azzy Tubelis, that's what we're going to call him. He's scoring 14 points a game along with 6 boards and a couple assists as well. If you remember in Seinfeld, Kramer, he was the Ass Man, had it right on his license plate. But anyway, he actually wasn't the Ass Man, though. He was exposed, but he got the Ass Man plate in the mail. But anyway, let's move on. The Wildcats are currently in the top 3 in the nation in offensive rebounding. Meanwhile, defensively, they're also in the top 3 in defensive field goal percentage. The Cats are allowing only 60 points a game at home, and they're limiting their competition to just 35% shooting from the field in that same category. They're taking on a USC team who really doesn't score a whole lot away from home. The Trojans are averaging only 68 points per contest in their road games. It's not terrible, but I don't think it's going to be enough to keep up with Arizona. It's just not enough points. They're also shooting just 32% from three-land when they travel. Now, USC failed to cover the point spread in 6 out of their last 9 outings as well, so they've struggled to cover the number here. Now, total-wise, USC went 4-2 to the under in their last 6. Arizona's 80% to the under in their last 10. Give me Arizona minus 11, under 150. Next game, another good one. It is going to be Duke versus UNC, 6 p.m. East. Duke is minus 3, totals 151.5. But despite being favored in this one on the road, the Blue Devils did fail to cover recently against the likes of Clemson, Florida State, and Wake Forest. And when it comes to covering the point spread, well, the Blue Devils also failed to cover in 8 out of their last 10 meetings with North Carolina. So if you're into historical trends, you may want to think about leaning toward UNC. And not only is Duke making just 32% of their three-pointers on the road, they're amongst the worst in the nation in shooting from the stripe on the road as well. Duke's actually making only 63% of their foul shots when they travel. They're taking on a North Carolina team who's amongst the best three-point shooting teams in the game. The Tar Heels they're drilling nearly 42% of their three-pointers at home. And they're also averaging over 78 points a game in the Dean Smith Center. Caleb Love, he's making 42% of his three-pointers. He's also averaging 15 points a game. Meanwhile, RJ Davis, he's scoring 13 points a game himself. And he's also making nearly 43% of his three balls as well. Now, when it comes to rebounding in this one, well, there's really not too many in the country that do it better than the Tar Heels. They're currently in the top 10 in college basketball on offensive boards. Now, total-wise, UNC went 4-1 to the over in their last 5 ball games, 70% to the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, Duke saw overs recently with Florida State, NC State, and Virginia Tech. I'm going to lean toward UNC plus 3 in the over 151.5. Next matchup, LSU versus Vanderbilt, 6 o'clock East. Now, LSU's minus 2.5, totals 131. Looks like a pretty good number here for LSU backers, but the Tigers have been struggling here recently. They lost 5 out of their last 6 ball games, and they may have to go to work here today without Pinson, Murray, and Williams. Actually, it looks like Pinson's been downgraded to doubtful, so a little bit banged up on the LSU side. Now, the Tigers have been pretty bad on the offensive end of the court when they travel. LSU scoring only 64 points per contest in their road games. And they're only making 25% of their three-pointers in that same category. So these guys have been virtually no threat shooting from beyond the arc, at least on the road. Now they're going up against a Vandy team who actually plays some really good defense. They're allowing only 64 points a game on their home court. And they limit their competition to just 30% shooting from three-land. This could be a potentially bad spot for LSU backers. Now, scoring-wise, Scottie Pippen Jr., he's averaging nearly 20 points a game, along with 3 boards and 3 assists. Meanwhile, Jordan Wright, he's averaging 12 points a game himself, along with 6 rebounds. Now, total-wise, Vandy saw 5 out of their last 7 fall under the line. Meanwhile, LSU went 60% to the under in their last 10 themselves. I'm going to lean toward Vanderbilt plus 2.5 in the under 131. I don't think that's going to be a very popular play. All right, next ball game. It is going to be Oregon versus Utah, 8:30 p.m. East. Oregon's -3 with the total at 139.5. Now, the Ducks have gotten the W in 8 out of their last 9 ball games. And they've been really good on the road. Matter of fact, the Duckies are allowing only 65 points a game when they travel, and they're limiting their competition to just 29% shooting from three-land in that same category. Now, scoring-wise, Will Richardson, he's averaging 14 points a game along with 3 boards and 3 assists. Will's also drilling 45% of his 3 balls. Meanwhile, Davion Harmon's making 40% of his 3-pointers himself. He's also scoring double-digit points a game. Now, they're taking on a Utah team who lost 10 out of their last 11. They covered the number just 3 times during that terrible span. Now, the Utes are scoring only 69 points a game, and they're shooting just 41% from the field. Now, total-wise, Utah went 6-3 to the under in their last 9 ball games. Meanwhile, Oregon saw 3 out of their last 4 fall under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Oregon -3 and the under 139.5. Now, I do have a couple games to handicap here, but we're running short on time. We're getting close to tip-off, so we'll just jump into the quick pick recap. So, anyway, guys, let's go ahead and jump into that quick pick recap. It's powered to you by my website at brockpage.com, where we are currently 4-0 in our last 4 college basketball tier package picks on that website. I like Notre Dame +1 over 143.5. Florida Gators -8.5 under 131. Kansas Jayhawks -2.5 over 144. Washington State -8 over 126. Miami, Florida, the Hurricanes +4 under 126.5. Arizona Wildcats -11 under 150. UNC Tar Heels +3 over 151.5. Vanderbilt +2.5 under 131. Oregon Ducks -3 under 139.5. And as far as some of the other marquee games, as far as some other marquee games, give me Colorado -9 under 136.5. Wisconsin Badgers -8.5 under 131. TCU -4.5 under 130. Alabama Crimson Tide -1.5 over 57. Arkansas Razorbacks -6 over 145.5. And with my next and final free pick for the video, I'm going to lean toward Arizona State +12 and the over 131 and a hook. With that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on brockpage.com. Now, if you guys do end up getting a membership here today on my website, just keep in mind you're going to get billed the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you do end up getting a membership here today on brockpage.com, you're actually going to get access to those picks all the way through the end of February. I always tell folks in every single video, the earlier in the month you sign up, the better. And guys, another benefit about my board member tier package is this. Board members not only get access to the board member tier pick itself, but you actually get access to every single pick that I give out on that website all the way through the end of February. You get access to every package that I offer. It's an all-inclusive package there. But anyway, guys, most importantly, I got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, guys, happy Saturday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at brockpage.com.